healthy foods can be eaten in unlimited amounts, right? Because healthy foods don't have calories. That's the first myth that we're tackling. What we often then see as a result of this myth is that people end up snacking on nuts, dates, granola, quote unquote healthy desserts throughout the day, assuming that they don't count towards total calorie consumption. And this obviously comes from, the rise of clean eating culture, right? Social media would have made a really big dent in that, sort of as Pete has mentioned, right? If you are not allowed to eat things that have all these labels and ingredients on them, then surely you can have as many nuts and dates as you like. The labeling of foods as good versus bad, marketing of natural, organic, no added sugar, like all of this makes you just think, okay, so I should only eat food that is not coming out of a packet, and I can have as much of it as I can possibly consume. And so we see that sort of tends to then be the mental or the process, right? The thinking. Um, but why is that a myth? This is because calories still matter, right? Regardless of food quality. So overeating these calorie-dense foods, these quote-unquote healthy foods, can actually prevent fat loss or lead to weight gain. Just because it's deemed healthy doesn't actually mean it's low calorie, right? Especially when you think about the things that then tend to be snacked on, things like nuts and those types of things where they are very, very calorie dense, not bad, but they're just very calorie dense. And so you want to be making sure that your portion awareness is really, really important. That's one of the solutions, right? We want to include these things in our diets, right? Because these things they're good for us. We need fats, we need these nutrients and these minerals and these nutrient dense foods, but we want to build our meals around protein, fiber, fruits, vegetables for satiety without excluding these foods, but without also over consuming these types of foods.
Yeah, and I think there's a good sort of point I want to raise here, or two actually. And one of these sort of instances has always stuck in my mind, right? When I first moved to Saudi and was coaching a guy called Lawai. Lawai, this is Marvin, the guy who's sort of now 5 weeks in with us, right? And this is way back when. So this is like 6, 7 years ago. And we're kind of smashing his training, right, in the gym. And he's on this kind of, he's following these principles and following this plan in terms of nutrition. And I remember we're walking outside around the track one day, and I'm really trying to dig into it because it's like, man, you're eating this, you're doing this, and you're not losing weight. I don't get it. And it was kind of like a situation of, why is that everything? Like there's nothing else creeping in. And he's like, oh yeah, I kind of when I'm at my desk, I sort of have some nuts. And it turns out he's eating, a packet of nuts a day when he's in the office, right? When he's grazing. And it comes to the point, as Marvin was saying, like healthy, nutritious food still has calories, right? And there's that sometimes the disconnect between, okay, to lose weight or to lose fat, you need this calorie deficit, right? And just because something is healthy or it's nutritious or it's got good fats in and all this kind of stuff, it still means it has calories. And so the point I really want to mention here, and again, we see this sometimes with some food journals, right? Or the lack of food journals in this case, where people, input their meals, right? Their meals, their snacks, their this, their that. But they sort of ignore or forget certain things that are creeping into their day. Maybe like, the spoonful of honey in the morning, right? Very nutritious, this and that, lots of vitamins, lots of nutrients, but still, it's essentially like pure natural sugar. It's still sugar, it still has calories. The same things for nuts. Right. Healthy granolas, which come on your Greek yogurt and these sorts of things. And so, whilst, we're not saying anything is bad, right? It could be, or these little things going on during the day could be the thing that shift you from being in a fat loss stage, a calorie deficit, to either being at maintenance or even in a calorie surplus. So everything that you eat has calories attached to it. It doesn't matter if you don't know what the calories are, but it's just being aware of, even though this is healthy, it's a healthy dessert, it's got no added sugar, whatever, it still adds to the total calorie number during the day.
Nice. And just to add to that as well, when you think of, because I know we often talk about fat loss, fat loss, fat loss, but when you are in when you're in a maintenance phase or trying to build, right? If we're reverse dieting and starting to build up the metabolism again, these could actually be a tool that you use, right? So you could actually turn to nuts, obviously not in copious amounts, right? But instead of, increasing or adding a whole new meal to your daily routine, it could just be, half a palm of nuts or something like that, that then increases the total calories without you actually, feeling that satiation that you would if you were having a whole meal.